What is good and what is up, y'all? It's your boy here, Jay, back and better than ever with another episode of Padres Banter. The Padres finally, unfortunately, lose a series for the first time since March. After such a hot streak, they find themselves stumbling just a tad after this series loss against the Chicago Cubs at home. Now turn around and face the Chicago team from down south in the Chicago White Sox, looking to bounce back and get a series W. But this is a very good Chicago White Sox team who just won 3 straight in a sweep and now have the home run leader in all of MLB. We'll get him right into it right here on Padres Banter. What's up, y'all? And welcome back to another episode of Padres Banter. The Padres lose a series to the Chicago Cubs after what looked to be at least a series win now turns into a series loss after such a hot streak. For the first time since March, they find themselves in the L column when it comes to series victories, and now got to turn around and bounce back against the team from down south in Chicago, hoping to be able to get a series win at home against a Chicago team. But this team is coming off a 3-game sweep at their house and now looking to do the same thing to us, not to mention the fact that they also have a hot hitter right now in Murakami. So we got to get all right into it right here on Padres Banter, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Padres dropped their first series since late March as the Cubs come into town and take 2 of 3 from the Padres, who have been sizzling hot but have leveled out in the past 5 games, going 2-3 versus the DBacks in Mexico City and the Cubs at home. Lucas Giolito continues his quest to join the team with scheduled starts in El Paso before joining in May, and Canning even before that, maybe. So we'll see, maybe possibly Lucas Giolito and maybe even Griffin Canning, who's been making a lot of starts. Both of them have a possibility to be showing up here in early May. Mason Miller also had his streak unfortunately snapped at 33 and 2/3 innings, scoreless snapped, 34 and 2/3 innings, scoreless snapped on a terrible call by the home plate umpire, who prolonged an inning when it should have been the usual 1-2-3 get out of it. But either way, he was screwed on a foul ball call that eventually prolonged the inning. I was at the game. Absolutely ridiculous call. I think that unfortunately that did get into his head and did affect, the rest of his outing, and unfortunately reason why he gave up the run in the scoreless streak that he did. A lot of people questioning, why were you putting Mason Miller in? Well, number one, Stammen has obviously, if you watch the post-game interviews, he has said verbatim that he's not afraid to go ahead and put Mason Miller in non-closing situations. So that means, obviously, if we're still winning by 4 or 5 runs, that he's probably going to be in there. If we're even in the 8th inning and we need him, he's probably going to be there. Who knows? So I just would expect Mason Miller to be anywhere in the back end of the game. Yes, he is our bona fide closer and the best closer in the game, but he has said verbatim, Stammen, that he's willing to put him in any type of situation. So that is number one. And also number two, he was warming up and was all the way done pretty much. And they were trying to warm up Bradley Rodriguez to see if he could be able to get in before Mason could get out there and the inning would be over. The reason being was because we were warming up Mason Miller and it was a 3-run lead, and then eventually we had another run tacked on. So then at that point in time, we didn't want to throw him in there because it was a non-safe situation, even though I just said that he was not afraid to throw him in non-safe situations. He was about to go ahead and warm up Bradley Rodriguez, but couldn't get him up in time, and so that's just not how baseball works, guys. You got to go with what you got to go with, not to mention the fact that this is the best closer in the game and you trust him in these types of situations. So you didn't think that he was going to give up a run in that type of situation, but at the end of the day, he did, and it was unfortunate that that foul ball situation did happen. You can go either way with whether you feel like the ball is a sphere and it goes over. MLB themselves and the rule book themselves said that they were wrong. And it's unfortunate. It is very unfortunate because you wish that it could contend for the MLB streak of scoreless innings, not just franchise streak. But at the end of the day, we still got the win. We still got the W. And I know that it didn't, feel like a save. And he did obviously break his scoring streak, but that's not how baseball works, guys. You can't just it's not MLB the Show where you can just get somebody off of the bullpen and then he's ready to go even if he's cold. No, you're gonna obviously injure yourself if you do anything like that, and This is the reason why Mason Miller went in that game, but that's okay. Like I said, we got the W in that game, even though it was the only W of that series. At least we didn't get swept. But also, Tatis has yet to hit a home run and is one of, I believe, only 12 batters qualified to not hit a home run this season. So we need to get our guy going mentally right. As you can tell, he is just absolutely drained. Absolutely drained. Not physically, but mentally, you can tell that he's had it. He's hitting the ball harder than anybody is right now in the entire MLB, and it is just not showing up. And everybody, knows that that is baseball and that's how baseball works. At least the players that I'm, rocking with here and talking to, you guys know that that's just how baseball is. But when it happens over and over and over and over and over again, it feels like you can't do anything right. It feels like you can't do anything right. And at that point in time, you know how it goes. You know how it goes. It's, I wouldn't say give up, but it's damn near something of a, it's just, you're tired. You just, it's just a lot. It's a lot mentally. But let's break down the Mexico City series that we didn't go ahead and get into yet, and the Cubs series before we get into the series versus the hot White Sox. Now, the D-backs. D-backs and the Pods headed down to Mexico City to face off against the in-division foe in the Arizona Diamondbacks to continue their streak of winning series, but weren't able to, and they would split with the D-backs taking the first game and losing the second. Now let's get into game one, as the Pods would back up a shaky start by German Marquez, as he would go 6 innings, pitched four runs, earned runs, 1 walk, 2 Ks on 75 pitches. Didn't have his best stuff, but they managed as Ty France came to the rescue. 2 homers in game 1 as he went 2 for 4, 2 home runs, but 2 solo shots. Didn't matter. Paid dividends. Awesome game by Ty France. Great to see that he's getting the swing going. And shots by Fermin and Sheets also themselves some RBIs as well. Gallen pitched well for the D-backs, really well, but only was given three innings of work, giving up 1 hit. You think that he would go the entire game, but I don't know if they were just planning on not having Gallen pitch the entire game. But he absolutely shoved, and I think that if he pitched the entire game, we probably would have lost that game, and both games, of that being said. But it all worked out as Morejon, Adam, and Miller shut the door in game 1, and we got the dub. Now into game 2. Pods looked like they had their bats going in game 2 with 11 hits, including 2 Manny Machado home runs, leading it 6-0, which seemed to be like a large deficit, but not in Mexico City. As even up 7-1, the D-backs came back from a 6-run deficit and scored 6 in the 7th and 4 in the bottom of the 8th to end up winning the game in game 2 in commanding fashion. King went ahead and took the mound and didn't have a terrible start, I think. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, a walk, and 8 Ks on 106 pitches, but not the greatest outings for Morgan, whose fastball has been flat as of late, and Rodriguez as well, and Marinaccio. All were not having their best days, all giving up two or more runs. Now, Rodriguez, I wasn't talking about his fastball. I just said he wasn't really having the best outing. Now, Morgan's fastball is the one that is kind of been, up and down here. We might be looking to send him down to El Paso just for a couple weeks to see if he can get his velocity back up. But Bradley Rodriguez has had a relatively good season as far as I'm concerned, and I wasn't crucifying him, but he didn't have his best outing that day, and neither did Marinaccio, who has had an up and down season as well. I was excited to see him, go ahead and pitch for us, but it's been relatively, hit or miss with Marinaccio. One day he'll be absolutely lights out, the next day he won't. But Camp also looks good as well, as he's having his back going this season, so that's great with 2 RBIs, but just have better pitching, right, in those types of circumstances. It's just hard. It's hard, especially when you can't pitch the way that you want to, especially when you're elevated the way that you are. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. We just have to have better pitching in game 2 to be able to, or better pitching from our pitchers, not better pitchers, per se, but better pitching from our pitchers. And I think that we would be able to win game 2. But we split the series. It wasn't the biggest, Debbie Downer. It did suck that we didn't, go ahead and continue the streak of winning series. But at the end of the day, we didn't lose the series. So. But now let's get into the Cubbies. In game one versus the Cubbies, after splitting the series with the D-backs, the Pods looked to bounce back immediately, and so they did with a game one comeback victory after taking the lead, then losing it, and taking it back in the end with team baseball and 14 hits, y'all. Whew, the bats were on fire. Talk about bats coming alive, winning 9-7 in that game. Whether it was Ty France 2-run triple, or his double, or Manny Machado 2 doubles, or even Sheets' homer, everyone seemed to join the party, but all except for Crone and Laureano, who didn't get hits. Everyone got a hit in the lineup that day, and Randy Vasquez didn't have his best stuff, but by any means, and his ERA shot through the roof, going through I think like a 3 ERA, but I think it shot back down to a 2.9. But 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks on 106 pitches. Like I said, didn't have his best stuff, but seemed as if he wasn't locating his best and falling behind in counts. 3 walks is bad for Randy. He knows he needs to be better, and I think that he will bounce back in his next start. In the end, the bats and Ty France saved the day, and we managed to get the dub 9-7. And that was obviously the game that Mason Miller came in and closed. And yeah, tough. Game two, Pods look to win in their seventh series in the last 8. And in game two, seventh series in the last 8 in game two, but was all for naught as they never led in the game, losing 8-3. Bueller took the mound for the Pods. Didn't look bad, but didn't look great, and didn't finish how he would have liked, going 4 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 4 Ks, 92 pitches. You could tell that he was visibly upset with himself and should have finished better, but Hart got him out of the jam and didn't give up the 2 runs, but he did get up 2 runs later in the following inning. Morgan came in and gave up a run as well. Wandy gave up 3 runs. It's clear there will be some guys who will be sent down, whether it's Morgan or Wandy. I'm okay with either, and preferably Wandy, because I think Morgan has some more upside in the fact that what he's doing, and I just think that Wandy, I understand that you're paying him when I'm paying him. We've seen enough. I just personally, I've seen enough. I know I've seen enough. I'm not going to expand on it. Pod's bats also ran stale. Only 4 ABs with runners in scoring position and only 6 hits after a 14-hit night, and Cabrera absolutely dealt for the Cubs. Now on to game 3 and the rubber match, as the Padres look to hold on and not lose a series since March, but couldn't capitalize as the Pods would drop the rubber match 5-4, losing 3-zip, or being down 3-zip early. Pods tied it with a 3-run inning, but the Cubs came right back with a run in the 6th and managed to maintain with another after the Padres scored 1 more. In the end, the Pods bats were even less alive in Game 3 with only 3 hits, and Castellanos had the biggest of the 3 hits with his first home run in a Padre uniform. In the end, 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position and only 3 at-bats with runners in scoring position, and 1 run loss hurts, but you have to lose some, and that's what it is in baseball. But it's a tough series to lose after being on such a hot streak. But we have an opportunity to bounce back against a team that, yes, they aren't necessarily the best when it comes to record-wise, but recently they've been playing really good baseball, and this is another Chicago team, and the team from the South, and the Chicago White Sox. Like I said, back to the Cubs, it's a great ball club that we went ahead and faced. PCA had a great, series. Bregman didn't really have the best series, but that's a solid team. I think that we need to take more emphasis on playing types of opponents like that, especially when we played them last year. I know that we, did compete, and it wasn't necessarily like an absolute boat race, but at the end of the day, I think that we need to take advantage and understand that, these are opportunities to kind of understand what those players are doing. I don't know how many more times we're going to face the Cubs. I need to obviously dissect that, but either way, we need to manage to play better against those teams. I think that we had opportunities to score runs and opportunities to play a little bit better, and we didn't. Yes, that's better pitching. It's a given, but that's a bona fide playoff team from last year. So I just think that we could bounce back. It was a good series against them, and yes, we lost, but I think that we learned a lot from that, and knowing that the pitchers that we're going to obviously send down as well. But we need to bounce back, and this team that we're facing right now, and the team from the south side of Chicago, is on the ups, trending in the right direction with, Muneteka Murakami, and not to mention Colson Montgomery. I mean, they got bunch of young talent over there that's really been, you know, really playing well. So let's get right into it right here with the White Sox. And, like I said, they've been playing hot stuff. They just went ahead and swept the Angels. Just coming off a 3-game sweep of the Angels, the White Sox have some steam behind them as they also have the league leader in home runs. I believe he's still the league leader in home. So yes, he is still tied for the league lead in home runs with 12 and with Judge and Yordan Alvarez. So absolutely ridiculous what Muneteka Murakami is doing right now over there on the south side of Chicago. But they are 14 and 17. Like I said, their record isn't, going to pop off the screen or anything, but only a game and a half back of their division lead. So looking to take advantage of that. Guys, that is, absolute that is a recipe for a team to be hungry. If you're only a game and a half back, I mean, especially this Chicago White Sox team, you see that number, you want to continue to play hard each and every game, and that's what they're gonna do in this series between Colson Montgomery, Murakami, Luis Angel Acuna, and their players like Schultz, pitchers, sorry, not players like Schultz. This team can compete and is no slouch. I view this similar to an Angels team who can compete, and you just can't roll out a starting nine and expect to win against this team. You just can't. This is a series I think that we should take advantage of as well, though. Manage to win it, if not, hopefully sweep it, because we need it, especially since we need to see more life with our bats, guys. I just think that, truthfully, we need to play this team with more emphasis, and I think that we need to obviously have an agenda. Who knows what the lineups are going to be because of recent trends that have been going on, but this is a time. I know that this team has been trending in the right direction. Time to take advantage and put them back in their place. Right? We obviously know what the history of the White Sox has been in the past couple of years. Let's try and compete that sense. And obviously, I hope that there's a little juice. And maybe we get our first home run. Speaking of, we're about to get into it. First home run for Fernando Tatis against his team that drafted him. But at the end of the day, there's just too much going on behind the scenes, I think, with this team right now. And the reasons why the things that are happening the way that they are. Now, obviously, there isn't anything crazy going on. I'm just talking about the losses that we have obviously endured in this past couple of, or this past week. Wasn't the greatest week. I think that we can bounce back, but I think the biggest issue with the Pods this season is obviously the bats. I think that we can bounce. We have great games and then we have very, very dull games. And to begin the season, we were absolutely dull, and still we're not the best. But our pitching is sitting in also at 19th in ERA as we speak. So that's not great as well. That's got to be better, and that was better, obviously, the past couple of years. So something that we have been able to lean on isn't there anymore, like in recent years. But this season, if we can't pitch, we can't win because we also can't hit. Now, the hitting bug hasn't necessarily been there in the past couple of years. Yes, we did have instances in the playoffs where we didn't hit, and that's, I think, the most evident, obviously, because everybody's watching and it's the playoffs too. But we've had a relatively good years in the past hitting the baseball. Now, the playoffs is a different animal, but I don't understand what's happening right now, what's going on. I don't know if it's just hitting it right at guys. Guys are in, the places that they should be, with the shifts or anything like that, studying their, pull tendencies and anything. I don't know. It's just not happening for a couple of guys, especially Fernando Tatis Jr. But it's a recipe for disaster, especially when you consider that our best players seem that they can't figure it out. Tatis yet to hit a home run, one of 12 qualified batters all year long. And not to mention Jake Cronenworth. I mean, not the fact that he hasn't hit a home run, he has one. It's the fact that he's not producing whatsoever. And now questions are arising among the fans if he is the answer at second base or anywhere, because he just hasn't been able to hit. And then, on top of all that, we got Sung-Moon Song, who just, obviously came up to the team, but went back down, came up to the team for the Mexico City series. Song looks to return as he's having rehab starts in El Paso and AAA as we speak. So that looks, or in San Antonio as well. Sorry. So that looks to be the answer that we could possibly turn to. But who knows, because he has still never played a game and a pitch in the MLB. So he did go to Mexico City, like I lamented to, with the team, but didn't play just yet. So we have yet to see him in action, but it would be great to see him sometime soon. But there's just a lot to dissect, whether it's between Tatis, whether it's between Cronenworth, the pitching not being there, the hitting kind of having lulls, and Song coming up with Marinaccio also being, or not Marinaccio, but with Giolito um, and Griffin Canning. So there's just a ton of questions that we have about what's going to happen, who's going to. There's a be also a ton of transactions, maybe not just questions, but also just things that are going to be shaken up here in the next couple of weeks because not only because of these losses, but because of injuries and things that need to be better and trending in the right direction if we want to compete for this division. We're right there. I know that it is early. I'm not trying to pay attention to that, but we just need to compete each and every game, try and win series. And I know that this is the first time we lost a series in 8 series, but it hurts because every series, even if you do lose a couple games, it feels like a ton because of the fact that the Dodgers are on the other side of this division. But we will bounce back against this White Sox team. I know that they're trending in the right direction, but we will attack. I think that we will get these bats going and that our pitching is going to be fantastic. So, all in all, it could be much worse, guys. We're sitting in good shape for not being healthy and not playing our best baseball hitting and pitching wise. So, we have only up from here, y'all. Only up from here. I'll see y'all after this series versus the White Sox, and we'll talk more Padres right here on Padres Banter.